What's up, everyone? It's Kanan.
It's Jessie.
Oh my gosh, she's in a video. How long has it been? Too long. You know, this is the Geeky Saiyan couple, not the Geeky Saiyan. Explain to everybody where you've been real quick, because I'm worried some of them are thinking that I am so slowly just taking over the channel myself.
Work. I mean, just to put it simply, work.
But I work, and I'm still... and Blake is having a fit. Please, like, we're still in works on getting this new setup when there's no green screen going, so you guys can actually see part of our shelf and stuff, and Jess's cosplay stuff and all that. But did she come around?
She's finding her way around.
Okay, yeah. So if you guys hear a cat meow, that's why. She's not happy that Jess is around here and she can't see her. But yeah, Jess has been busy, or she'd get sick, or she just said, I don't have anything I can add. So, but I wanted her in this one because even though the anniversary was a few weeks ago, by the time this goes up, we'll be a little late. But you're going to hold her the whole entire time?
No.
There's Blake.
He's getting big.
Yeah, getting very big. But this is our 2-year anniversary video of Bumblebee becoming canon. We didn't really do the 1-year anniversary for anything because, I mean, really, nobody else did, really. It seems like the Ruby channel, the Ruby channel, and I'm adjusting this a little bit, the Ruby YouTube channel, which finally relaunched not too long ago, and the Ruby Twitter all celebrated the 2-year anniversary. So I was like, you know what? As probably 2 of the biggest Bumblebee shippers out there, we have got to do something for this 2-year anniversary. And I wanted it, you know, to be like the first video where there's a lot of stuff in it. So that's why it's taken us so long. Though Jess took my original vision and went crazy with it. That's why it took that's another reason why it took so long.
I mean,
but the one big problem I had with this video was, what can we do that we've not already done before? Because we've done 10,000 Bumblebee videos. But I was like, you know what? We've not done a greatest hits video. Talking about those major Bumblebee moments. There are small ones that I think don't get enough credit, that people don't really talk about, but these were like the main ones. So we're not going to be talking about soundtrack songs. We're not going to be talking about merch. We're not going to be talking about what members of Crewbie have said. We are just talking about the main moments from the show from each volume. Now, I don't know how long we're going to try and make this video not be too long, because it's 12:30 a.m. as we record this video. But we're going to talk about it a little bit in length. First, I wanted to talk about, as part of an intro, and like we've talked about it before, but for new viewers who may not go back and watch any of those older videos, this will give you guys a clear explanation on us. But how long we've shipped Bumblebee and why we shipped Bumblebee. I feel like yours is probably a little bit more, either more complicated or longer than mine, so, because you started watching later.
Yeah,
I think you first started during the Volume 5 and Volume 6.
And it was because of a friend of mine who lives in the UK. She goes, you have to watch this. You just kept... She just kept
put her house.
She told me, because you have to watch this, because she kept posting all this cute art and stuff. And she goes, okay, I'm not going to post anymore to spoil you. And she like messaged me after I watch each episode, and
I tried to get her to watch it. She wouldn't watch it when I suggested it.
And after the first one, she goes, "Okay, do you notice anything?" I was like, "Well, I've already noticed the connection between the two." So like, right in the beginning, and think the next day I went to the mall and bought.
We bought the Beacon Arc set, which came with volumes 1 through 3. Which
Yeah, like I looked
has
through
been-
all of it and I saw there was a steel book. I said, "Ooh,
yeah,
I might as well get that."
I think it's become kind of hard to find.
I've not
at
seen
this
it
point.
anywhere ever since then.
Yeah, ever since we bought it, I've never seen it.
Well, even when she commented, she goes, "Oh, you got the steel book." Yeah, it was just there.
And I don't think they ever did that again. They didn't do it for the Mistral arc. They didn't do it for Atlas.
Because I looked and I didn't see. I've never seen anything. We're still trying to collect the Japanese version, which we've slowly been finding. I don't remember where we found it first.
Oh, Volume 1, I found it at Colossal Con. At the
I
flea
couldn't
market.
remember if it was Colossal Con or if you found it at Southeast.
We also need to buy Ice Queendom finally. That's one of the few ones that we don't own. But yeah, that's where Jess came in for it.
She's mad pouting.
And that was the hiatus between Volume 5 and Volume 6. Me, I started right away. Like, because by the time Ruby started airing, I think that's when I started going from, well, I'm kind of tired of hetero relationships in anime and manga because it's becoming a little bit too fan servicey, too waifu stuff and all that.
I have to say, before I first started fully watching, I would see clips posted of certain things. Like, that's, for the longest time, my favorite episode, the food fight. I kept seeing that clip and I didn't understand where it was from. So I really did start seeing things, and then, when Monty passed and everything, like, that's when I started getting more of interest. Like, okay, what is this? But then I didn't really jump in until she says, "Watch this."
You completely derailed.
Sorry.
She almost knocked down her screen. You completely derailed my thought.
Sorry.
But I had started getting into Yuri and Girls Love, thinking it was more romantic, and stuff like that. And of course, I prefer female protagonists. So Ruby seemed like, at first, oh wow, a anime-like show with an all-female cast, and I don't know, something about Blake and Yang, even in their black and yellow trailers. I don't know. Maybe it was the black and yellow. I don't know. But as Volume 1 aired and just saw I don't know. They just seemed like they were they were shippable. Like, at that time, Volume 1, there really wasn't much. So it was like, I liked them just because they looked. It's the same way why people started shipping Ruby and Weiss, just because the interactions, you took what you had for shipping material. But yeah, so it was pretty much the very beginning for me. All right, so we've talked about that enough. Let's, you ready to get into the actual show? All righty. So let's start with Volume 1. All right, so in Volume 1, we have to start somewhere, and that being the first meeting, which is during the sleepover they have. And, even as an early shipper of the show, Volume 1 doesn't have a lot of depth in a lot of areas. But, as years have went on and you rewatch it, you catch stuff that you didn't really catch at first. And at the time, you couldn't really see it as flirting. But now, knowing the characters how we know them, Yang, complimenting Blake on her bow and being really the first one to somewhat be welcoming to her at Beacon, because she had already met Ruby and Weiss beforehand, but Blake insulted Weiss and then just walked away from Ruby. So it wasn't actually, I would say, good first impressions. But, Yang being Yang's, the personality type that Yang was at the time, and sadly in Volume 1, Yang wasn't much of a character. She was more of a background character in Volume 1, but she was the one that really tried to break the ice with what with Blake. And as times went on, you wonder, oh, she's cute, so this will give me an excuse to talk to her. Aaron and Barbara have kind of joked about that. Might have been what it was, is that Yang wanted an excuse to talk to Blake, and others have picked up on it. Like there was, oh man, years ago, there was a YouTuber who did voiceovers, and it was what Blake really thinks of Yang, and it was from that first meeting. And well, it's like, come on, Blondie, are you here for me or not? It was her inner monologue, and it was like, you trying to use your little sister as an N was cute at first. It was like, oh man, I'm not the only one who thinks that was good there. But this, really looking back in hindsight, this is the first example of Yang having all that bravado, but sucking at flirting. Which to this day, I think Yang has never probably had any kind of serious romantic relationships before Blake. Just because, kind of like Ruby, she kind of acts like she wasn't exactly into that. Like she had a group of friends in Volume 1, and then they disappeared. We never heard about them ever again.
We don't know what happened to those friends.
Yeah, and but yeah, like you can't, like, I did notice after Yang says "nice night, don't you think?" she kind of does the eyebrow bump, like that. It's very so. It might just be eyebrow movement, but if you look real close, it's kind of like, and like the smirk that Yang's got on her face, it's almost like she is. Which, I mean, why wouldn't she check out Blake? She's sitting there in her black robe like thing, reading a book at candlelight, like that, being all dark and mysterious. That's an attractive thing to be attracted to. And you wonder if at that time, because they've joked about it since then, that Blake and Yang didn't like each other first. It was like, yeah, for one episode, and it was really just Blake being annoyed that they were interrupting her,
bothering her while she was reading.
But yeah, like, so you can't really do a greatest hits without them first meeting, and that goes into our next part, which is when they become partners. Now, this scene was originally completely different. Like, Blake pointed Gamble at Yang, or at that time it was just like a blade at Yang's throat, and kind of smirked, and Yang did the nervous laugh. And I can kind of see where people thought it was flirty, but really when I first read it, I was like, I don't know about that. But I don't like it. I don't know. I would have had to have seen it animated to really judge it. But it's wild that there's a lot of focus on eyes in Ruby. The first person you come into eye contact with, you become partners. And Ruby was all about becoming Yang's partner, because this was during Ruby's, I don't need friends, I want to be a loner. But she wanted to be on Yang's team because she wanted someone on her team that she would know. And technically, really, Weiss and John should have been partners, but Weiss was like, nope.
Yeah, just turned around and walked away.
Yep. But the thing that makes Blake and Yang becoming partners really significant was, what we know about Blake at that time, before she started to fully recover, was that she sought Yang out. And the manga anthologies kind of allude to that it was because Yang complimented her bow, which is cute as hell. But it already shows that Yang sparked something. And there's this great music video that someone did. It was all original artwork that they had done, where when Blake looked up from her book, First Meeting Yang, there was already like a golden aura around Yang. Pretty much, you brought sunshine into my life and all that. But that, like, and there's little small things in Volume 1 as well, but them meeting and Blake being the one that sought out Yang, and the fact that very quickly Blake already starts smiling and smirking more around Yang. And, later in the volume, her, Ruby, and Yang doing the whole bonsai, Ruby and Yang's personalities already rubbing off on Blake. What was kind of the start of, it was a very slow start, but it was kind of the start of Blake moving on from her time in the White Thing. But that's all we've got for Volume 1, so let's head on over to Volume 2. There's a line up across and there's no return. There's a time and a place, no bridges left to burn anymore. Now, for Volume 2, really, there's only one scene that comes to mind, and that's from Burning the Candle. Burning the Candle, I think, for a lot of people, is either where they started shipping Bumblebee for real, or they started thinking, oh man, this might actually go somewhere, because it's the fact that the way the whole thing is shot, it's been talked about to death. Yang is literally glowing the entire scene. She's the only one that could get through to Blake, and there's a theory that the reason why Yang was so confident that Blake would be at the dance was that she knew that if she could not convince Blake to go word-wise, she'd offer her a dance and see if she'd come for her.
I mean, it's definitely it's a wise solution.
Yeah.
She knew she was going to come for one reason or another.
Yeah. And that whole scene is, the way it's shot, the way it's lit, how intimate it is. And it's got so many, like, Yang opening up about Raven to Blake. And a lot of people said, oh, well, Yang eventually told everyone about Raven. Yes, she told everyone that Raven existed, but she didn't tell that story to everybody.
No, she's not told that story to anybody.
Except Blake. And, other things like when Yang finally hugs Blake and Blake braces herself because she thinks that, just like Adam, that Yang was going to hit her. But instead,
she hears her name.
But instead, Yang offered kindness. Then, of course, there was the whole, if you feel like coming out tomorrow, I'll save you a dance. Yang winking at Blake, and she's getting bitey.
Spicy.
And
spicy kitty.
I want to see if she'll do it real quick. Come on.
She's camera shy.
You know what I do to relax? She's not going to do it. She's too busy looking.
You gonna meow in the microphone?
Okay, we're getting sidetracked here. That's what happens.
She hears her name.
That's what happens when you have a cat. But I was hoping to be like, I pet my cat, and then as I pet her, I was hoping she'd go, because she does it to me all the time. But this is probably the first and only time, really, until they started dating, that Yang was a little bit more successful in flirting a little bit, the wink and stuff like that. And of course, her scene coming out tomorrow, a lot of people thought, oh, coming out. But after Bumblebee became canon, I think it was Eddie who said that Blake's known that she is bisexual for a long time. So I don't think that was what they were being like. Yeah. They've since said that she just meant coming out to the dance. But yeah, besides some small moments, Burning the Candle is really where Bumblebee was ignited for a lot of people. And, if you want to, talk about, the stuff in Volume 1 being too small, Volume 2 was really where their relationship really started building. So that's it for Volume 2. Let's head on over to everyone's favorite volume, Volume 3. All right, so once again, like Volume 2, Volume 3 has some smaller moments, but really the biggest thing that happens in Volume 3 is one, before everything goes bad, you have the connection between Yang and Adam. So, of course, we all know what happened. Yang gets framed, and because of the violence she showed to what everyone thought was a defenseless Mercury, which we all know that wasn't, Blake kind of gets triggered a little bit, and she's reminded of Adam. So, of course, we all jumped on this for years. Blake is relating her ex to Yang. Now, which of course Yang is not Adam, of course, and
hit you with her tail.
but I lost my train of thought. But you know, it's one of the first times that we see Yang cry, and like it's the fact that Blake doesn't believe her that makes her cry. But all that Blake asks is to look her in the eye and say that she is sorry for what she had to do. And that's where we learn that eye contact is very big with Blake. So once again, eye contact. Ruby is very, very all about eyes. Whether it be she gets you, whether it be the silver eyes, the color of your eyes and your aura, all that. It's always about eyes. Then, of course, we have in Volume 3 the first encounter of Blake and Yang with Adam. Now, one of my favorite arguments for this scene for years was Yang showing up doesn't mean anything. It could have been anybody. Yeah, the show is sentient and just chose a character at random.
No, because she specifically said she was going to find her.
Yeah.
And the urgency of knowing who she went after, like, well, the White Fang, not so much Adam, but
yeah.
That was an urgency. I mean, so that's because she turned around and ran after that.
Yeah. And but yeah, like acting like the writers didn't preemptively write it's Yang that shows up.
It wouldn't have been as impactful either if it wasn't Yang.
Yeah. But there's a lot of firsts here. You know, Yang hears Blake scream when Adam stabs her. We see Yang get very angry, screaming, "Get away from her." Second time, once again, in the show that we see her crying. Once again, it is about Blake, and as much as people don't like to admit it, the moment Adam cut Yang's arm off, that solidified it. It forever connected Yang and Blake's storylines. It
was a tragic thing, but it connected them.
Yeah, so it literally it literally created the Beauty and the Beast parallel. Like it's there. Like if you know anything about Beauty and the Beast, whether it be the original fairy tale, whether it be the Disney version or the live action version, Ruby uses different versions of the fairy tales for their show. It doesn't matter if a character didn't exist in the original one. How many people know about Beauty and the Beast without Gaston? Like, seriously, the dude has one of the most popular villain songs ever.
Next to Scar? Yeah, that is one of the most popular Disney villain songs.
It's literally a song about being a pompous, egotistical ass, but it's catchy, and it
thinks that he can have any lady he wants.
Yes. And it was always Adam is different things in the story of Beauty and the Beast. He's Gaston. He's the prince who never changed. He's also the cursed rose, where both Blake and Yang can both be Belle and the Beast at different parts. I like to say Yang is the beast just because of her temper and all that, but
Which
it connects to both of them.
yeah, it fits, and then it shifts, especially when you get to later that we'll talk about in the fight.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, once
that's where Beauty and the Beast. That's where the storylines start to change. So.
Though Blake and Yang versus Adam is definitely Belle and Beast versus Gaston.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, whereas right now, the next volume or so is they're all multiple things. Whereas the closer you get to 6, the more it separates into that specific break off for that.
But of course, after all that happens, and we get the scene of Yang laying there unconscious, and Blake grasping her hand, telling her she's sorry, crying. Like, I think by this time, Blake was in love with Yang.
Oh, probably. I mean, there's been hints that there's obviously been more at the end.
Like, I still think it took Yang longer. I think it was that time away that really did, and I'll get to that in a sec. But yeah, Volume 3 was not only where, like, the true plot of Ruby began, but it's also really started our step toward what eventually would happen in Volume 9. But let's get to the volume that split the fandom in a lot of ways. A lot of people love it. A lot of people hate it. Let's head on to Volume 4. I don't know if this will exactly be a greatest hits, but I always loved that in the intro of Volume 4. Now, of course, it technically does go in RWBY order. We have Blake with Sun, her mom, and her dad, and then she looks away sadly, and it goes straight to Yang. Like,
it was on purpose.
Well, yeah, it definitely was. And, like, yeah, they showed Ruby and Weiss, but they didn't do something that connected Ruby to Weiss or Weiss to Blake. It was literally connecting between Blake and Yang.
That touches back to Volume 1's
Where
song.
did she go? She was okay. I was gonna say she was at my feet.
The first volume song.
Oh yeah.
That Ruby and Weiss's part was not connected, but Blake and Yang's went right.
Oh yeah, Red Like Roses.
Yes.
Yeah. So then we get to what you could also say is a small scene, but I still think it's very impactful for what it is, and that is Yang looking at the stack of books. Now, we know that Yang read to Ruby when Ruby was a kid, but let's face it, books is not really part of her.
That's not
character.
Really her. Yeah. She's not going to sit down and just
like it's
read
not
a stack of books.
Well, yeah, it's not. What my point is, they're not being like, oh, she just doesn't feel like reading. She is literally thinking about Blake. Blake, out of all of Team Ruby, is associated with many items, whether it be tea, candlelight, but her biggest thing is books.
I mean, come on, her bed was held up with books.
Yes.
A lot of books.
Yeah. And a small part, yes, but it shows that longing, that melancholy of something that was there is no longer there. And as I've always said, sometimes you've got to be away from the one you love to realize how much you love each other. Abstinence makes the heart grow fonder. She used to live in Ohio. So, yeah, we know what it's like. We weren't not talking to each other like Blake and Yang were, but you get what I mean. Next is a very crucial scene, and that's Blake beating herself up to Sun. The whole, do you think I like being alone? Because to this day, I see people being like, oh, well, Blake left. Why didn't she leave a note? It's like, do you not understand the point of her leaving
and blaming herself that that everything that follows her is the problem, so she just eliminated what she thought was the problem.
Yeah.
Which Sun makes her, like, pretty much just tells her bluntly, no, we didn't do, like, and none of them are doing any of this.
And because of that, she pretty much, she unloads on him, like, do you really think I like being alone? And she says that she thinks about her teammates every day. She says Ruby, she says Weiss, and then when she says Yang's name, her voice cracks. We told you all this stuff for years. But saying that every day she thinks about them, she loves them like she never thought she could love anybody, but she hopes that they all hate her for leaving. And you can tell it hurts her to say that. And like, what Blake did was not exactly right, but she had the best of intentions.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think by at least volume 3, she knew she was in love with Yang. So she was doing this thinking she was protecting the one she loved from her ex-psychotic boyfriend, when she should have known, being a huntress, that Yang was more than likely going to run into him eventually, as long as Blake was there. But I think this was Kruby's way of getting them to miss each other while they were gone, even though Yang acted like she was angry, and she probably was. But it was a way to, for one, justify the slow burn. But I don't know. The scene is great in just that you can hear Blake's anguish and hurt from having to have left them. And it goes over so many people's heads that I don't understand.
Well, it also was a way between the 2, 4 and 5, but having an outside source pretty much speak to them in one way or another of something they needed to hear, regardless. Like, again, Sun, I mean, he was really blunt with her, and she goes, especially since he was hurt, I'd do it again. So would Yang.
Yeah.
He made a point to emphasize that and look at her saying that. Like, she needed to hear that. Just like in 5 it happens.
Yeah.
For Yang. But, like, you need that outside source to kind of be blunt with you in one way or another. Because you don't want, like, if someone sugarcoated it, she wouldn't have come back.
Yeah.
You needed that source. Which, it added to that, to the burn for them. Like, it added to their build-up.
Yeah. And so the last part from Volume 4, small once again, but it turned out right, was at the end of Volume 4, we see Yang on the exact same ship that Blake and Sun were on at the beginning of Volume 4, because we see the same captain and the
crew and everything.
Yeah, like his first mate. I'm guessing that girl is his first mate.
Probably.
And we learn that the name of the ship is called Pride. This is also the volume, I completely forgot to include these in my notes. This was also the volume where people started noticing the bisexual colors were following Blake. But yes, that was Volume 4. So let's move on to Volume 5. All right, so once again, like Volume 4, since they were separated for most of the volumes, there's not, like, we actually only have 2 things in Volume 5. For one is the episode Alone. And once again, if burning the candle was when, like, early Bumblebee shippers jumped on the train, after this one, even more jumped on it. So, of course, we have the whole, Yang acting mad, like, we'll be fine. Why would I want her here? And then having that one-on-one with Weiss, saying, how can I be there for me if she doesn't let me? What if I needed her here for me? And I definitely think this is when Weiss secretly became the #1 Bumblebee shipper.
Yeah, this ties into what I just talked about for Volume 4 is that outside source.
Yeah.
She needed somebody to be this way toward, like, to her, to, which I think, I mean, regardless of how Yang took it, she obviously, like, it did something for her. It probably helped curb some of that anger.
Well, it's easier to be mad at someone when they're not physically there.
Yeah.
When they actually come back around you and you realize what was really the truth, that subsides. But there's a moment in this episode, it goes from after that talk right to a scene of Blake. And that's when she's outside.
She's got the railing on.
Yeah, and she's on the railing, and you just know she's thinking about Yang, because they literally went from that to Blake. So I've always loved that transition. I don't think it gets enough credit than what it does. But yeah, that little cut I have always loved. But yes, the Alone episode did so much. Once again, 3 times Yang has cried, and it's about Blake. And of course, when that particular scene starts, we go in through the window. She's looking at a picture of Team Ruby, and Yang's thumb caresses Blake. Like, it was always there. Oh, man, it just gets me. Now we get to the end of Volume 5 with the reunion. Now, yes, of course, Blake did not know her team was there, but that doesn't really make the shock of her team being there even, like, it doesn't make it less impactful.
Yeah.
She walks into a room of people she has not seen for a long time. Ruby's there. Weiss is there. Jean is there. Ren is there. Nora is there. Crow is there. The only one she singles out is Yang. And Yang has that look on her face that just screams, she came back. Like, it is just, and the fact that in the background you hear Wings play. I was like, was it anything, was it as big as Volume 6 and Volume 9, all that? No. But at the time, that was like,
big.
Yes. And then, of course, when Yang comes back up from the vault, she looks at everyone, then she glances at Blake, and they have that little look. And then you have, at the end, that little tense moment. But I think Yang kind of remembers what Weiss, and for an extent her father, said to her. And she lets go, not of her annoyance, but most of her anger, and welcomes Blake back. And boy, the hiatus between 5 and 6 was so freaking long, because 6 was going to be our first full volume with Team Ruby together since Volume 3. So the hype was big. So let's now move on to what for the longest time was my personal favorite volume of the series, Volume 6. Now, of course, we've got to start with Sun, actually, real quick. I didn't write this in my notes, but I just want to mention it. There's been so many people saying, oh, they wrote him out of the story. No. Sun was never going to hang around with Team Ruby for the rest of the story. I don't know why people think that.
Well, if you think you go back to the first thing he said, she was going on a one-woman fight against the White Fang. That's the sole reason he went. Like, yeah. There was no other reason.
Yeah.
And he even took himself straight out of it at that whole scene, at the end of that scene anyway.
Yeah. It was never about that. So I don't know why people think, oh, Ruby wrote him out of the show to get Bumblebee together. Sun is a side character. He's not going to hang out with Team Ruby and Team Juniper the entire rest of the series. We all pretty much figured he'll come back and back you up.
I mean, did he have a crush on Blake? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
there's no denying
he also, the thing is he noticed it far enough back to when he saw them, Yang and Blake laying on the ground at Beacon.
Yeah,
so, like,
once again.
He knew that.
Once again, there's a reason why they had that shot. But anyway, we're getting sidetracked. So on the train, from the little interaction they have of Blake trying to help Yang with her bag, like I still love them kind of making up a little bit, and Ruby and Weiss coming in and smiling. It's like they know, and stuff like that. But the fact that like for the longest time, Chapter 1 of Volume 6 was one of my all-time favorites because of the fight on the train. But we see after that time apart, they still read each other like a book in fighting. They are like a well-oiled machine. They don't have to second guess each other. And it was great to see, the whole glad to see you're not rusty, and stuff like that. But the next scene, after they get to the horror farm, the scene in the barn. I remember when this episode aired and people were posting the scene of Blake holding Yang's hand. People thought it was photoshopped. Like, did this really happen? Or is this a Photoshop? Like, it really happened. So like, you have a really good moment, and like, before Blake kind of fumbles it, she was getting a smile out of Yang until she said, "Oh, I'll protect you," and Yang did not like that.
No, that's not what she wanted or needed to hear.
But once again, I think this is further confirmation that Blake knows she's in love with Yang. Yang is still dealing with her own thing right now, but Blake's in love with Yang at this point. There's even that little scene of when they're all sitting in front of the fire and Blake looks over at Yang, and Yang is just looking at the fire all intent, and Blake's ears go down, and she just looks down like because Yang's mad at her. It's cute little things like that, and Yang grabbing her hand and bringing her out of the farm, which, people are like, oh, why didn't she grab Ruby? Maybe because Ruby can fend for herself. Anyway, is this the last? Yeah, okay. And the last thing we are going to cover in Volume 6 is, of course, Blake and Yang versus Adam. And the fallout that happened after that. So, we all knew it was going to happen eventually. Like, even before Volume 4 or 5 aired, people were wondering, when are Blake and Yang going to fight Adam, even though there were still people trying to take Yang out of the equation, even though he cut her freaking arm off. Like, yeah, she doesn't need to be in that fight. Yeah, right. But like, the build of it was, I don't know, it had me a nervous wreck. Like, especially when we found out that Adam had waited, like he had followed them the whole time. Like, where was he at? I know we saw like Yang seeing him, and I'm thinking, like, to this day I wonder, did she see him, or was that like a vision or whatever? But where was he on the farm? Why didn't he run into the apathy? Why didn't he get drained while he's outside stalking everybody? but
his evil scares it away.
but the whole, oh, I hope Yang hits him with his bike and with her bike and all that. It happened. Like, it literally happened. And like, that whole fight, like, the big moment was, what does she even see in you? Well, apparently she sees in her everything she thought she saw in you.
Well, that was also where this fight was where I said the Beauty and the Beast story changed, and this was that major thing at the end, because we, in the one video we did, we compared like the scratches that she got, like, yeah, I think we pulled up a picture of from Beauty and the Beast, the Beast scratches on his arm. Like, it was a huge connection, and that's kind of just cemented things even more. Like,
well, I've also had, like, you can look at like the end of it where they kill Adam. It's signifying, when Gaston fell to his death. But I also got to thinking, I came up with this theory a long time ago. If Adam also represents the cursed rose, him falling to his death could signify the last petal falling. But by that time that petal had fallen, Blake and Yang had found each other, so that his whole curse on them was lifted.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what happened, because ever since Volume 6, Blake has recovered. She's becoming more who she was before Adam. So I think
this was the last bit that she needed to start full recovery.
Even though she really did not want to kill Adam.
That was a last resort.
Yeah.
And the thing is, that's not just like Ruby, because I used to see comments here and there about them killing him, but that's in any show. Like, that's a last resort. You don't want to just kill somebody. Like, obviously, look at her reaction after that.
Well, I mean, it's like people react to this, they act like they had never seen a villain killed in an anime before. It's like, do any of you watch anime? Like, I mean, there's even Goku who doesn't like to kill people. Well, I mean, he did when he was a kid, but even when he gets older, he doesn't want to kill people. But Goku will still kill a villain if he has to. So it's like, where's this no killing villains, and like every villain has to have like a redemption story?
No, and especially when it comes to like your loved ones. I mean, again, Goku. I mean, what happened there?
Who's right over here beside me? And she just knocked my games over.
Causing chaos.
But anyway, like, we don't really have to go over that because we lived it. But yeah, the fallout from that was toxic. Very toxic. But yeah,
that was a hard thing to get through for me too. So
yeah, the hiatus was rough from 6 to 7. But speaking of 7, let's move on to Volume 7. Alrighty, so the first thing we're going to talk about from Volume 7 is Gamble Shroud, because when the first trailer hit, everyone quickly noticed that Gamble had not only been repaired, but it had a little sliver of yellow on it. And I remember the deniers were like, oh, it's a glitch in the trailer. And then not the first episode, but like the first episode of them getting their new outfits, Blake getting her haircut, and her pulling Gamble out, it was a big close-up that there was a yellow marking on Gamble when it got fixed. Now, would I have liked her to have taken parts of Yang's old arm and repaired it with it? Yes, like I really would have liked that, but it still doesn't change the fact that, like, to me, it symbolizes that Yang brought color back to Blake's world. Now, at this point in time, it is very, very obvious that Yang has now realized she's in love with Blake. Because that very same episode where we get to fully see Gamble Shroud, we get something that we were hoping we would get after we saw Blake's new haircut, but weren't sure that Kruby would do it, and they did. It goes from a little scene of Blake checking her new scroll to looking up, her ear twitching and looking up and noticing that Yang is staring at her. And if you look at Yang's face before she realizes she has been caught, she is looking pretty dreamy-like.
But what adds to it is the footsteps.
Yes, there are footsteps in the snow. You can see that. And even before that, when they're still on their scrolls, you can look at Yang, and she looks over. Her eyes look over at Blake. But yes, you see the footprints. This girl actually walked around and stood right in front of Blake so she could look at her. And then, of course, when Yang is caught, she freaks out, gay panic, checks her nails on her prosthetic arm, and says, just not used to the new hair yet, in which we get a blush from Blake. People said it was the cold.
No, there's a significant difference, and it doesn't matter how many times you watch it over, there is a significant difference.
And she does the whole girl thing. Is it bad. I'm like, oh gosh, come on. And Yang actually panics. Said, no, it's good, great even. And I remember when that episode aired, we were flabbergasted that that happened. Like, I never thought I would see Yang have a gay panic over Blake's new haircut. Which I love too because I like short hair on girls. But and really, I mean, like I said, once again, there's many small moments of Volume 7, but those were the two really big parts. Man, my hair looks awful in this. But now we're getting very close to the end. Let's head on over to Volume 8. All right, we are at the longest volume ever, though we've only got 3 moments. What? Well, we've only got 3 moments that we're going to cover. So, of course, like, much to our chagrin, I don't think we were too happy about it, but much to our chagrin, Yang and Blake are separated at the very beginning of the volume.
Again.
Yeah, Yang goes one way, Blake goes the other, but they actually show Blake reacting to Yang wanting to go elsewhere, like Yang wanting to go save Mantle while Blake's going to go to Atlas. But like, I was like, oh, we're about to get some missing bees here. We're about to get some longing bees in this volume, because that's what it was. Like, she was sad that Yang was going elsewhere, and like the whole time that Blake and Yang are separated, there's these small moments where, like, May talked about, you guys had a fight with your friends, and they focused solely on Nora and Blake. Remember that? Because Nora and Ren are having their little thing. Blake misses Yang, but her and Yang are at a pretty good moment now. They're not really struggling like they were in Volume 6. But also you have the whole, do you think she thinks less of me? John thinking it was Ruby, when we're like, nope, she's talking about Blake, because she's like, yeah, Ruby. Like, oh, John. Like, you didn't get it then, but by Volume 9 you got it.
Yeah.
But
it also, we'll get to that for that one.
But also, Blake constantly being like, have you called Yang? Call Yang. Have you tried calling Yang? You know? And then, of course, after the well blows up, first thing Blake does is call Yang, and they finally get in touch with each other, and, it makes Yang realize that Blake never thought less of her. And then we have Reunion Part 2, with a little song called Treasure playing in the background. So Yang has her sister's moment with Ruby. She has her friendship hug with Weiss. And she looks over, and there's Blake standing on her own, holding her arm, kind of like maybe worried that Yang's mad at her. Blake looks down, closes her eyes, and her ears go down. And at that time, this was our most watched reaction. Yang's real hand cups Blake's cheek. Blake looks at her. Her eyes are kind of dilating and sparkling. Yang smiles at her and blushes. I think the first time we've ever seen Yang blush. Blake smiles at her, and they do their whole little head touch thing, and I screamed like a girl. You were almost, yeah, you were starting to cry. And then literally, either the same episode, Ren and Nora do the same thing. So it was like, yes. And then the end of Volume 8 happens. Now, it's kind of funny, leading up to that, we were already saying, Team Ruby's going to fall. It's shown in the opening. Ambrosius kind of just pretty much said it. Hey, don't fall. They're going to fall.
Yeah.
Now, the question was...
You jinxed him.
Yeah. The question was, who was going to fall first? Many thought it was going to be Ruby. Many thought it was going to be Weiss because it was the Atlas arc. It's more about Weiss. And it was Yang. And they later stated that the reason why it was Yang first is because they felt like Volume 8 was kind of a Yang volume. So it was to wrap up her story for Volume 8. All of a sudden, you got people going, oh my God, Yang's dead. The show's just called Rube now. And it's like, there were legit people sad thinking that Yang had died. And I'm like, people, that was the longest week of my life until the next one. It was like, the others are going to fall. It's not just going to be Yang. We just didn't know that Neo and Jean were going to fall. But the big importance of Yang's fall is Blake's reaction. Blake has always, catched people with Gamble. I think this was her first time ever missing. And it was probably the most important miss she's ever had. And when Yang just, lack of a better term, evaporates. And we had been teased by Aaron for I don't know how long, that there was a moment where Blake screams. And people were wondering what happened. Does Blake lose a limb?
Everybody was thinking that.
Yeah, and we were like, oh, something's going to happen to Yang. I guarantee you, because it wasn't going to be like her parents. Her parents aren't in Atlas, so it was like we were on the fence. Either she gets hurt or something happens to Yang. And it was the latter. She screams Yang's name. Tears roll down her eyes. And we see in the background, she literally almost jumps in, and Weiss has to pull her back. And then we get the next scene of her still reaching, and then she just cries to herself for a little bit, and then anger kicks in, and she goes after Neo. Now, of course, Ruby, Weiss, Blake, Neo, and Jean would all fall. Everyone in the real world thinks they are dead. But we knew right then and there, we're going to Wonderland. And that is what leads us into Volume 9.
Sinking down into depths of nowhere, I am undone. Clasping tight onto memories, I know they'll be overrun.
And here we are, finally at Volume 9. And this was very anticipated because, we had gotten a trailer and we knew that Yang was going to be in this cloud-like place, and then we saw what looked like Blake being in the same area, and it was like, ooh, what's this? Is this them reuniting? Is this something else? Well, it wasn't them reuniting. We did have a reunion part 3, though. And it was everything I was hoping it was going to be without a kiss. So everyone reunites within the first episode, which I still think was the best. Was the best choice. Our cat's going to knock the screen down on us.
No, she's playing with something.
Sounds like she's playing with paper.
She is.
But so pretty much, Blake tackles Yang. In the background, they're playing a little soundbite from Worthy, though we didn't know that at the time. And she just says Yang's name, and Yang places her hand on her head and does the head pat thing, though originally they said that they had Yang kiss Blake on the head, but they cut it because they didn't want it to take away from episode 6.
Yeah.
And then between episode 2 and 3, we have full-on flirting. Blake giggling and having her hands behind her back like a schoolgirl, and them flirting, and the whole how disarming, and the way Aaron delivered that, it's like, ooh, like you're wanting to drag her off, aren't you?
And then the chess game.
Well, yeah, there was that next where Yang is cheering on Blake, and Blake, does her whole rolls her eyes, but when her back is turned to Yang, she blushes like crazy. And that would lead us finally to episode 6, over 2 years ago, as a recording of this video. Confessions within cumulonimbus clouds. And I mean, really, what can we say about this that we haven't already said? Like, it was a long day because we both had to work, had to stay off Twitter all day, and had to anticipate that. And like, just the name of the episode and how much Creepy were amping it up, we were like, this is it. Let's make sure.
I had to somewhat avoid our friend Josh's message to me asking, "Did you watch it? Did you watch it?" Like, I couldn't. No, I'm not home yet.
We had to get the balloons ready because some of them had deflated, and like, we were just like, here we go. And I mean, if you've never watched our reaction to Volume 9, Episode 6, go watch it, because I'm speaking gibberish. She's doing this, but looking at me at the same time, like, what the hell's wrong with you?
I couldn't, I don't know, just involuntary. Just
I've
what?
never cried harder.
The thing is, what we've discovered, especially through all the reactions, I'm a silent crier, unless it's something bad. But I just weep, whereas he's a little more vocal than I am.
Well, I mean, I had shipped this for
well, I know
10
that. I'm
years,
just saying
so
that, like, because I know some people probably expected me to freak out. No, I'm just this. I turn red and I just cry. Okay, that's just me.
We're both turning red in this video. God, it's hot in here. But yeah, like, there's not much else we can say that we haven't said before. Like, I still have to remind myself every now and then that it happened. I can still watch the scene and get a lump in my throat. It's just wild that two characters that Yang is my number 1 favorite character in Ruby. Blake is number 2. And, it went from just, oh man, I like their dynamic. I like the color dynamic, black and yellow when Bumblebee first got brought up.
I mean, Yang was the first one I cosplayed, but
yeah.
I had a huge, if there's a video on that, I have a huge connection to Blake.
And, it went from simply shipping to, oh man, this could actually happen, to, knowing how important it was for LGBT representation in animation, where we had stuff like Legend of Korra and She-Ra, Adventure Time, and many others. But I don't know, when Bumblebee happened, it, like, you had news sites talking about, like, saying, that they set the gold standard for WLW relationships in animation or in television. You had people pick up the show just because of the kiss. Like, they knew they could watch the entire episode expecting a sapphic canon relationship, not just between two female characters, between two female lead main characters who are not ever going to be in the background. They are front and center. Like, they're the B and the Y,
She keeps running up and tapping me with her paw.
But since we've talked so much about the kiss, that's what we're gonna leave there. Then later, once they get into the tree, something I have wanted for a very long time, because we know the story about Yang and how she's always had to deal with stuff on her own. With what happened to Ruby, I really wanted Blake comforting Yang, because now that Yang has Blake, that she no longer has to go through something like that alone. Now, before then, yeah, we had the small little thing of, like, them fighting again together and them being even more well-oiled as a couple, them sleeping next to each other, small stuff like that, the little touches and stuff like that. But seeing Blake, caressing Yang's face, wiping her tears away, just looking in her in the eyes while Yang sniffles a bit, and it was, ugh, I loved it. I loved it so much. And then, of course, we have the ending of Volume 9, where Team Ruby and Jean return to Remnant, and before walking through the portal, Blake and Yang look at each other. They take each other's hand and they walk through together, showing that this isn't just something that happened in the ever after. They're returning to Remnant as a couple, as girlfriends, as lovers. And, you know, just see it, like seeing that final group shot and them both holding hands and them looking at each other before the screen went to black. Just, man, what, like, even if the worst case scenario happens and Ruby never returns and they're never picked up again, and no, like at that time, WB hadn't put them up for sale, but, you know, in case no one buys them, at least we ended on a high note. But that's not how things are. Viz Media would eventually buy Ruby, and it's been less than a year, but it feels like longer, and we are patiently awaiting for the announcement of Volume 10. After Volume 9, we had, did both parts of the movie come out after Volume 9, or did one of them come out during Volume 9?
Why not come out after?
I can't remember. But of course, we did have the two Justice League movies where they showed off more of Blake and Yang's relationship and all that. But those are movies. We're not going to cover them. We just wanted to cover volumes 1 through 9. But that was our greatest hits for Bumblebee and the 2-year anniversary. So yeah, in conclusion, you know, I love this ship. Even though it's canon, I still read fan fiction. I still have like music video ideas that I want Jess to make and put on the channel and stuff like that. Like, there's a few songs we want to use that no one else has used, and I wish you would make them. Strike while the iron's hot. But
Time.
yeah, time. But and if you guys liked the intro, please stay tuned for the outro because it's just as special. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know Jess apparently went ham with the editing in this video, so hopefully it comes out good. But you got anything you want to add? Yeah, it's getting late. But as always, guys, I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please consider hitting that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, click that like button, leave a comment. Even though we're a small channel, these videos do take a lot of time and effort to do, coming up with ideas and all that. This is the first Ruby video we've done together in like a long time. It's been hard to think of ideas that no one else has done. So we'll try and do some more. God, I'm burning up. But once again, please consider subscribing. Hit the like button. The like button helps a lot. Leave a comment on what greatest hits moment is your favorite. As always, guys, this is Kanan.
This is Jessie.
We love you all very, very much. Please stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves. And we will see you in the next one. Bye.